She was already laughing before I even sat down. The kind of laugh that cuts through music, through noise, through people. A sharp, theatrical laugh, like she wanted it heard by the whole room. And it was. I stood there for a second longer than I should have, holding a slice of cake no one asked for me to bring, wondering if she'd notice I came back. She didn't. Her back was turned to me, shoulders bouncing with every giggle, one hand resting on his chest like it had always belonged there. Not mine. His. He wasn't even funny. That's what drove me nuts. I heard the joke. Something about office coffee and expired almond milk, and she was doubled over like he'd reinvented comedy. I watched her wipe tears from her eyes. Then I looked around. No one made space for me. Not at the table, not in the circle, not in her world. I was just a man with a forgotten slice of cake and a growing tightness in my throat. That was the moment I sat it down. Quietly. Right there on the edge of the bar. Vanilla, untouched. And then I walked. I didn't say her name. I didn't clear my throat. I didn't cause a scene. I just stood up from that invisible chair I'd been assigned in her life and moved through the crowd like a ghost who had finally accepted he was dead. I think I made it 4 steps before I heard it. The silence. Not full silence. Just the gap where her laughter had been. Like a track skipped. Like she finally looked around and noticed the room had lost something. She didn't call my name. But I heard her voice. Curtis. Not loving. Not worried. Just curious. Like someone realizing they left the stove on. I kept walking. Through the exit. Past the valet. Into the parking lot where I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew I wasn't staying. That party. That fake, wine-soaked party full of people who knew more about my wife than I did. It wasn't the beginning of the end. No. It was the middle. The beginning? That was 6 days earlier. When I found the blue receipt tucked behind the microwave. And I know no one believes stories that start with a receipt. But I promise, this one's real. And it only gets darker from here. 6 days before the party, I found it wedged behind the microwave like it had slipped there by accident. Though with Dana, nothing ever accidentally ended up anywhere. A small blue receipt, folded once. From a high-end boutique I'd never heard of, dated 2 days prior. One item. A men's fragrance. $218. I stared at it for a long time, like the numbers might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. I don't wear cologne. She's always said it gives her headaches. And yet there it was, black ink, elegant logo, gift-wrapped. I didn't ask her about it that night. Or the next. You know when your stomach knows the answer before your brain catches up? That was me. I didn't want to hear the lie yet. I wanted to give her one last chance to be real with me. But then came the charger. Thursday night. I came home late from work. Dana was already asleep. Or pretending to be. Her phone was dead on the nightstand. Again, so I grabbed her charger from the living room. Only it wasn't hers. Hers is white. This one was black and scuffed and frayed near the base. And I recognized it. Not from our house. From her office. Specifically, from her co-worker Jonah's desk. The guy she once told me was practically married and would never be into someone like me. So I just stood there in the living room, holding this strange charger in my hand like it was a detonator, my ears ringing. She never brought work stuff home. Never. That's when I opened her phone. It was charging just enough to power back on, and I didn't even have to guess the passcode. She always said, if you ever feel the need to go through my phone, we've already got bigger problems. Well, we did. There weren't any messages. Nothing obvious. But I checked her photo app, just out of desperation. And there it was, in the recently deleted folder, which she clearly forgot to clear. 2 photos. Both from inside someone's apartment. Not ours. The first, a bottle of the exact cologne from the receipt sitting on a shelf. The second, a blurry mirror selfie, taken quickly. A reflection of her legs curled under a blanket, next to someone's arm. A man's arm. Dark green watch. I don't own a dark green watch. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside her and counted every breath, every twitch of her fingers, every fake turn of the body like she was restless and not avoiding eye contact. I didn't say anything the next morning either. I don't know why. Maybe I was building a story in my head. Maybe I wanted to see how far she'd go. Which brings us to the party. The laughing. The cake I brought. The slice I left behind. And her eyes following me as I walked out. I know what most people would ask. Why didn't you confront her right then and there? Because I'm not built like that. Because I wanted her to wonder. I wanted the silence to get loud. And it did, just not in the way I expected. The next day, she messaged me. Just one word. Really? That was it. No context. No, where did you go? No apology. No explanation. Just really? Like I had embarrassed her. So that's when I knew. This wasn't just a bad moment. This wasn't just a laugh that went too far. This was something else entirely. And I was finally ready to stop being the only one pretending we were okay. I didn't answer her text. Not right away. I let that one word, really, rot in my inbox like spoiled fruit. And even though I stared at it a dozen times, even though my thumbs hovered above the keyboard, I didn't give her the satisfaction of a reply. Not until the next evening. She came home at 7:42 p.m. I was in the kitchen, making dinner. Not for her. For me. Frozen lasagna I had no intention of eating. I just needed to be doing something when she walked in. I didn't say hello. She didn't say anything either. She dropped her purse with a sigh, like I was the exhausting one in this house. Then, like clockwork, she opened the fridge, stared at it for a solid minute, and said, "We're out of oat milk." That was it. After 2 days of silence. Oat milk. I didn't respond. Just pulled the bubbling tray from the oven and set it down with more force than necessary. I could feel her watching me now, arms crossed, back half leaned against the counter. "So, are we going to talk about it, or are you just going to keep acting dramatic?" Dramatic. She said it like I was a child refusing to eat his vegetables. I turned, finally, and said just one sentence. "Whose charger is it?" For a moment, her expression cracked, not like guilt, but like someone caught off guard by how specific the question was. What charger? That's when I knew she was going to lie. Not even hesitate. Not even ask for clarification. Just launch straight into deflection mode. "The black one you left plugged in behind the couch," I said. "The one that wasn't here last week." She rolled her eyes. "You're seriously interrogating me over a phone charger? Curtis, are you hearing yourself?" I didn't say anything. Just watched her shift her weight, blink faster than normal. That's what she did when she lied. Blinked like she was buffering. "I borrowed it from Layla," she said. "My charger broke, remember?" But I had remembered. Her charger was fine. I'd seen it that morning on her nightstand. White and intact, braided cord and all. I knew now she was going to lie no matter what I said. She wasn't even trying hard. "You should check your recently deleted photos," I said quietly. That got her. Not visibly, but I saw it. A flicker in her eyes. A tightening of her jaw. She straightened up, then gave me a mocking laugh. The same kind of laugh she let out at the party, sharp and fake and loud enough to hurt. "You went through my phone? Wow. Real grown-up of you." And there it was. Not denial. Not shock. Not even confusion. Just offense. Like I had violated something sacred. "I saw the receipt too," I added. "The cologne. The green watch. The arm. The room that's not ours." I wasn't yelling. I didn't have the strength. But something in my voice must have made her nervous, because she stopped laughing. She just stood there now. "Are you seriously turning this into some kind of conspiracy?" she said finally. "You think I'm cheating on you because I bought a gift and had a friend over?" "A friend." I echoed. "That's what we're calling it." She opened her mouth, closed it, then went into full defense mode. "You know what? This is exactly why I don't tell you anything. Because you twist it. You overanalyze every breath I take. I can't even exist without you assigning some sinister meaning to it." And that was her weapon, shame. Not explanation. Not remorse. Just pure, polished blame shifting. She grabbed her phone, stormed into the bedroom, and slammed the door like I was the one who had ruined the night. I stood there for a long time after she left the room. Not sad. Not angry. Just hollow. Because at that point, it wasn't about what she denied. It was about how little effort she put into lying to me. Like I wasn't even worth convincing anymore. That night, I didn't sleep. Not even a little. I just lay there in the guest room, the one we used to joke about turning into a nursery, listening to the soft hum of her scrolling on her phone in the bedroom across the hall. She never once came to check on me. Not a knock. Not a whisper. Not a blanket offered out of decency. And I know how stupid that sounds. Expecting a blanket from the woman who just looked me in the face and lied, but it still hurt when it didn't happen. Around 2 a.m., I got up and opened my laptop. Not because I had a plan, but because I needed to do something. Anything. My hands were shaking. Not with rage. That would have required hope. I was shaking from knowing. From being certain. I didn't have access to her work emails, but I remembered the name of the company that sent the cologne. It was printed in fancy gold ink on the receipt. Belgrave and Locke. Boutique stuff. The kind you don't buy on a whim. I looked them up, and sure enough, They had an online store. I used the guest checkout and added the cologne to the cart, just to see. When I selected gift wrap, a custom message box appeared. I didn't think it would matter, but I typed in her name and the date from the receipt, just in case. The page refreshed. A message appeared. This gift was already purchased by Dana Silvers on December 4th. Would you like to buy another? I swear my heart stopped. The system remembered. I clicked back, heart pounding now, and changed the delivery address to a different zip code, one across the city. Different name. Same date. The same message appeared. Again, I must have checked 6 combinations. 6 names, all flagged the same way. Already purchased by Dana Silvers. She hadn't just bought one. She'd bought multiple, sent to different addresses, all under gift wrap. My mind started spiraling. I opened Google Maps. I started typing in places I didn't even know, neighborhoods she said she hated, streets I'd never visited. And then I remembered one detail she'd mentioned weeks ago. A dog. A golden retriever named Max. She told me about Max when she came home late one night. Said she stayed back at the office with a few folks and played with someone's dog. That night, she had fur on her pants. I noticed it. She brushed it off like it was nothing. So I did what I never thought I'd do. I logged into Nextdoor using an old burner account I made when we were thinking about moving. I searched Max, not expecting anything. And then, there it was. A post from a man named Eli Maddox, with a golden retriever in his profile photo. Thanks again to Dana for dropping off Max's treats. You're the best. Posted just 8 days ago. Treats. Dana doesn't even like dogs. I clicked the profile. His location? The exact same zip code where the cologne had been sent. It wasn't just emotional anymore. She was going there. She was buying things for his dog. She was spending our money. I should have gone to bed. I should have waited and cooled off. But something snapped. I grabbed my keys and drove. I didn't even know what I'd say if I found her car there. I didn't know what I'd do if I saw her inside. All I knew was that at 3:12 in the morning, I parked across the street from a house with a red door and a porch light still on. A golden retriever was asleep on the welcome mat, and Dana's car was parked right there in the driveway. I didn't get out of the car right away. I sat there, engine off, staring through the windshield like maybe if I blinked hard enough, the driveway would be empty. Like maybe her car would vanish, or the dog would wake up and bark and I'd realize I was dreaming, or paranoid, or just sick in the head. But no, the car was there. Her jacket, the tan one with the fur collar, was draped over the passenger seat. And that dog? Max didn't bark. He didn't even lift his head. Like this was just another night she came over. I sat there in the dark, my hands glued to the steering wheel, sweat pooling at the back of my neck even though it was freezing out. I kept imagining them inside. Her and this Eli guy, laughing, drinking wine. That stupid dog curled between them like they were a family. Like I'd been cut from the photo. Replaced. I wish I could say I stormed up and banged on the door like some action movie husband. But I didn't. I was too afraid. Not of him. Of what I might see. Of the look on her face if she opened that door and saw me standing there, broken and pitiful. I couldn't stomach the possibility that she'd look annoyed rather than guilty. So instead, I backed out slowly, tires crunching softly over the gravel, and drove 5 blocks away. Parked again, and started typing. Not to her. To Eli. I found his Instagram earlier that night while digging. It was public. Full of gym selfies, inspirational quotes, and way too many filtered photos of his golden retriever. But he also had a business page. Some kind of freelance home security installation. It had a contact email. I used it. The message was simple. Hey Eli, you probably don't know me, but your guest Dana left her wedding ring at home tonight. Just thought you should know she's married. I hit send. Sat there. Waited. My heart raced like I'd committed a felony. But then, just 10 minutes later, he replied. One word. LOL. That was it. Not who is this? Not denial. Just that mocking, smug LOL that somehow cut deeper than a confession would have. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone across the street. But instead, I did what I always do. I folded. Drove home. Sat in the dark of the living room until sunrise. When Dana came through the front door at 6:41 a.m., wearing the same jeans from yesterday and smelling like someone else's cologne, she didn't look surprised to see me sitting there. She just sighed like I was the inconvenience. Like I was the one breaking curfew. You seriously waited up? She asked, dropping her keys in the bowl by the door. Curtis, this is getting pathetic. I didn't answer her. I looked down at her hand. The ring wasn't there. She followed my eyes, then gave the most dismissive shrug I've ever seen in my life. I took it off because my fingers were swollen. That's what happens when you retain water. Google it. That was her explanation. Retaining water. No apology. No story. Just medical gaslighting. So I asked the question that had been growing like a tumor in my chest. Is it him? She didn't answer. Dana, just tell me. Is it Eli? She stared at me, her lips parting, but instead of words, she let out this small, amused huff, like she was tired of hiding but too bored to explain. I'm not doing this right now, she said, already turning toward the bedroom. You're spiraling. Again. Again. That word rang like a gunshot in my head. She didn't deny it. She didn't even care enough to lie anymore. She just walked away, leaving me there in the living room with the curtains still drawn and the taste of shame in my mouth. That's when I realized something worse than betrayal had happened. I wasn't just losing her. I had already been replaced. The part that kills me the most is how quickly she moved on from the conversation. Or whatever that non-conversation was. She went straight into the shower like nothing happened. Like I hadn't just asked if she was sleeping with someone else, and she'd walked away. Steam hissed from under the bathroom door as if it were scrubbing her clean of guilt. While I stood there staring at the keys she dropped into the bowl. It felt like the whole house had shifted. Like the walls knew before I did. I don't know what made me do it, but I walked into our bedroom and opened her closet. I wasn't looking for anything specific. Maybe hoping for something that would make me feel less insane. A receipt. A letter. Something. But it wasn't a thing I found. It was what I didn't. Half her clothes were missing. Not the everyday stuff. The special stuff. Dresses she hadn't worn around me in over a year. The heels she said hurt her feet. The jacket she told me she'd lost at a bar. They were all gone. That's when it hit me. She'd been staging this for a while. Not just sneaking around, preparing, creating space, quietly moving her life out of mine one hanger at a time. I opened the drawers. Jewelry box, emptier than I remembered. Makeup bag, missing. I checked the bathroom under the sink. Her flat iron gone. Her spare deodorant, the one I always accidentally used, gone. Even her extra toothbrush was missing from the holder. She wasn't just cheating. She was phasing out. I sat on the edge of the bed, the one she hadn't slept in for 2 nights, and just stared at the carpet. And I don't know what came over me, but I started laughing. Not the good kind. The kind that sounds like it's being dragged out of you by force. Bitter, half-choked, awful. I think I scared myself a little. And then, like the universe just couldn't help itself, her phone buzzed on the dresser. I wasn't going to touch it. I told myself that. But I was already standing before the thought even finished forming. The screen was still lit. One new message. From Eli. It wasn't locked. I tapped the message. Did you tell him yet? Or do I have to? I stared at it. Eyes dry, throat closed, hands trembling but not shocked. Not anymore. This wasn't a confession. This was a warning. A threat. A power move from the man who had no right to even know my name. She came out of the bathroom 5 minutes later, hair wrapped in a towel, acting like we were about to go out for brunch. What? She said, noticing my face. Why are you looking at me like that? I held up the phone. Not yelling. Not breaking. Just holding it like it was Exhibit A in the trial she never expected me to file. She glanced at the screen, and, for once, she didn't have a snappy comeback. She didn't roll her eyes or fake a cough or pivot into oat milk. She just stood there, wet hair dripping, mouth parted like she couldn't decide which emotion to land on. I was going to tell you, she finally said. Her voice was quiet now. Tired. No fire, no denial. Just that flat, almost gentle tone you use when delivering bad news to someone you pity. I just didn't want to hurt you. I don't know what made me say it, but the words slipped out before I could stop them. You already did. She blinked like the words stung her, but I didn't care. She'd been bleeding me out slowly for months. I was allowed a sentence. She sat on the edge of the bed, just like I had, and stared at her hands. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. We were supposed to grow apart naturally. I thought you'd figure it out. Figure it out? Like heartbreak was a puzzle I was too stupid to solve until she gave me the final piece. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even ask for details. I just stood there in silence, knowing something she didn't. This wasn't going to end the way she thought, because I had a plan now, and it started with disappearing. She thought I'd beg. That's the part one can't stop replaying. She thought I'd beg her to stay. Even after everything. The lying, the charger, the late-night visits to his place, the missing clothes. She still believed I was the kind of man who'd crawl after her like a kicked dog. She didn't even pack the rest of her things. That's how confident she was that I'd fold. So I didn't say a word. Not get out. Not, I hate you. Not even why. I just stood there, then nodded like I finally understood what kind of story I'd been cast in. And then I left. I didn't slam the door. I didn't take my keys or my wallet. I walked out with nothing but the clothes on my back, because I knew if I stayed 1 second longer, I'd scream, or cry, or throw something I couldn't take back. And I wasn't going to give her that version of me. Instead, I gave her silence. And that silence? It did more damage than 1,000 screaming fights ever could. For the next 3 days, I disappeared. I shut off my phone, left it in a drawer at a motel 20 miles away. Took nothing with me but my laptop, an old duffel bag, and a folder with every receipt, screenshot, and message I'd collected over the past 2 weeks. I didn't check in with work. I didn't call my brother like I normally would. I didn't even eat properly. I just existed, quietly, purposefully. And while I sat in that room with peeling wallpaper and a heater that buzzed like a dying insect, I opened our shared bank account and watched, in real time, as she spent dinner at a rooftop bar, new clothes, a spa retreat in the next county. She must have thought I'd just be too heartbroken to notice. Or maybe she assumed I was still in the house, too numb to check. But what she didn't know was that I had already scheduled the transfer of my half of our joint savings to a separate account. I did it that first night, right after I left, before she even realized the silence was real. I left her with exactly $73. But I didn't stop there. The lease? It was in my name. The utilities? All me. Even the Wi-Fi she used to FaceTime him when she thought I was asleep, my account. So I canceled everything. Power, internet, water, all shut off within 48 hours. By the time she tried to use her card again, the bank had flagged it, frozen for suspicious joint activity. And when she tried to call me, straight to voicemail. Her texts? Unread. The longer I stayed silent, the more noise she made. First, it was passive. Curtis, I think we should talk. Then, annoyed. Are you seriously ghosting me? Grow up. Then, panicked. Okay, where the hell are you? The power's out and my phone won't charge. Then finally, the one that made me laugh in a way I hadn't laughed in weeks. Please, just tell me you're okay. Now she was worried. Now she wanted answers. But I wasn't interested in handing her closure on a silver platter. She didn't get to cut me open and walk away with the best parts of my life and still expect me to help her unpack it emotionally. That wasn't my job anymore. I disappeared from her world, and for the first time since this entire nightmare began, I felt something close to peace. Because finally, I wasn't the one chasing. I was the one she couldn't reach. She showed up at my sister's house on a Sunday afternoon. I don't know how she found me. Maybe she went through my emails. Maybe she called every relative I have. But I'll never forget the way she looked standing on that porch, makeup smudged, phone in hand like a broken compass, hoping I'd still be the man who'd open the door and ask what she needed. I didn't open it. My sister did. And when Dana asked if I was home, she didn't lie. She just tilted her head and said, "He is, but he's not interested." Then she shut the door before Dana could even reply. That was the last time I saw her. I didn't block her. I didn't send a final text. I didn't give her one of those dramatic ultimatums you see in movies. I just kept living, quietly, calmly, without her. I moved out 2 weeks later. Got a small apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, just mine. I filled it with secondhand furniture and real peace. Started waking up without nausea in my chest. Got back into running. Even joined a weekly trivia group at a bar near my place. They're not my best friends or anything, but they know my name. They laugh with me, not at me. The weirdest part? I never once missed her. Not really. I missed the version of her I made up in my head. The one who cared. The one who kissed me on the forehead when I had headaches. But that version? She'd been gone long before the charger, the cologne, the dog named Max. I got an email from Eli last month. Subject line, "Just so you know." He said Dana moved out. That things got messy. That she still talked about me sometimes, like I was the one that slipped through her fingers. Said she cried one night over the lasagna I used to make, the one she always mocked for being too salty. I didn't reply, because I didn't need to. I was finally done building explanations for someone who never asked the right questions. Now, I run my own tech support business. It's small but stable. I see my sister every Sunday. I laugh more. And sometimes, late at night, I reread the last text Dana ever sent me. Please, just tell me you're okay. I am. I really, really am.